I've started. Well, if it'll work today. Definitely YouTube and all the other stuff. YouTube is on Facebook. Let's see where you at here. Oh, Facebook working too. 2 days in a row. That's that's a record, I guess, compared to what we were the other day. Again, good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a neighbor. Go ahead and click that share button on Facebook and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. In fact, I might go to my Facebook page right now and share today's broadcast. So you can do the same by going to WNCR-TV Facebook page right now and clicking on share. I guess if you're watching it in real time, and if even if you're watching it later, you can still share it. How about that? You don't have to be watching it in real time to share it. You can share it any and every time you see it so people can get information, be empowered, be informed, and so we can all make a difference in the communities that we are serving. I'm trying to find the WNZR TV Facebook page. There it is. And you simply click that share button. We should be live on Facebook. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now I'm going to click share. I'm going to say good Friday morning. And I'm going to tag my followers. I got Good Friday. Good Friday Tuesday. I want you to have a good Friday morning. I want you to have a good Friday, the whole entire day. So I'm going to leave that just like that is. Okay. 23 minutes past the clock hour. This morning, we have a studio guest here this morning. And you've seen him before. I'm sure you have throughout the community as you ran for office. Well, actually, a police officer. Yeah, you done a lot, actually, when I think about it. Good morning to Mr. Linwood Williams. How are you, sir?
Good morning, sir.
How's everything with you this Friday morning?
I cannot complain. That's what the old folks say.
No need to, right?
No
Can't
need
change
to
that.
complain.
That's it. So, of course, you do a lot of things in the community, still do actively engaged in your ward. I see you at the ward meetings and things of that nature. But what are you up to now?
I have released another book.
Okay.
I wrote another book, second book. The first one I wrote was a book of poetry. But this particular book is entitled Which Way is Freedom Now? I think it has a message for our current situations.
What is our current situation?
We are struggling with freedom. As you know, America is supposed to be the freedom leader in the world, but I've discovered that there are many different opinions when it comes to American freedom.
That is certainly true, and oftentimes because we live in such a polarized now society or America, you can easily offend a person, and then you got all these type of things going on. And so I guess my question to you: what started you questioning? Was it the recent election? Was it things prior to that? Or what inspired it?
No, actually, you've seen in the Bible where you've heard out of the mouth of babes. Back in the late 80s, I had the pleasure of entertaining a class of fifth grade students right here in the city of Rocky Mount.
Okay.
We were discussing rights and responsibilities.
Okay.
And I dropped the question, what is freedom to this group of fifth grade students? The responses I got changed my life. I realized that when I sit and listen at the students, they gave me answers that ranged all the way from freedom being very responsible to freedom being something that you could just do. You could do anything you wanted to.
Okay.
And I asked myself at that time, I wonder if this is the way the rest of American society thinks. And out of that discussion came my belief that there are varying beliefs about freedom.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. Some have that restrictive type freedom. I think about Benjamin Franklin, his quote, talking about, having freedom at the sake of safety and all this kind of stuff. Should have neither, right?
Yes.
And so you talk to these fifth grade students and got this different and varied opinions on freedom. And so here we are, fast forward to 2025, and time flies, right?
Yes, it does.
So then what said, now is the time to kind of journalize this and put it into a living document.
Absolutely. And to do that, we do have to look back at who the framers were of the American Constitution. And looking back, I discovered that there were 6 different types of freedom at work in those discussions.
Okay.
And they did range from one group believing freedom was the right to do anything we want to do. And the other group were more restrained. They believed freedom came with tremendous responsibilities. And so those 6 types of freedom start with 2 main categories. One is fidus freedom, that's Fidus, and the other is legibus freedom, Legibus. Fidus freedom simply means responsible. The word fidus in Latin means responsible freedom. These people did believe that freedom was something that we must have, and they would fight for it. They wouldn't stop unless they got the freedom they were looking for. They would resort to unconventional means from time to time. That was the first group. I call them type A fighters. The type B fighters, believers, they were a little less active. They believed in freedom, but they didn't really want to fight for it. They were kind of like accepting the status quo. And then your third type of fighters, believers, kind of just blew with the wind. You know, they just they accepted whatever came along. Okay. Now that is your group of responsible freedom believers. But then come the irresponsible group of freedom believers. And the first of those is type A legibus freedom believers. These people believe freedom only applied to them. They honestly did believe freedom is the right to do anything I want to do without respect of consequences that might fall on other people. That was the type A group. These people are racist. Okay, they would really cut your throat. They would cut their neighbor's throat to do what they want to do. Okay, sounds familiar, doesn't it? And then you had the type B legibus believers, and this group was a little subtle in their beliefs about freedom. They would do anything you wanted them to do. They would go along with you as long as you didn't disrupt their status quo. You didn't disrupt their status in society. They would accept racism as long as, you know, they couldn't be blamed for it.
Gotcha.
They were happy about it.
Okay.
And then the last group there, the type C fighters, freedom believers, this is a strange bunch. These guys will be racist one day. They would be liberal the next day. They would do anything as long as they could hide and that nobody would bother them. So having said all of that, if all of us were to subscribe to the type A fighters, freedom believing type, we would see our whole society shift. This is a way to start looking at people from a perspective other than just race. It's really looking at people from a perspective of character. And when we do this, we see that different people in different races fit all these categories.
Sure.
There are poor people who believe in the right to do anything they want to do. And then there are wealthy people who are very, very responsible in their ideas of freedom.
Sure, absolutely. And so I was thinking about the last one. I guess they were just the ones that will go either way, one way, hot or cold one day, just trying to survive, I guess.
That's exactly right, trying to survive.
And so you have those type of people in life. But to your point, your earlier point, you said, hey, when you kind of looked at the Constitution, you kind of looked at all of these attributes were contributors to the Constitution.
Yes.
And so one of my biggest ills is that people develop groupthink. And so if you kind of categorize yourself into only one, then you don't think about the other things, right? Because then you get solid on one way of thinking. And so when you looked at, for instance, if you think about just A or B or C or whatever it is, then it might have been that group that wouldn't even believe in a possibility of amending the Constitution, right? And so you had these other people who might have been thinking kind of differently and said, you know what, I get it, but what if we don't like this later on down the road? And so what if we have a clause in the Constitution that would allow us to amend some of these things, because we may be feeling this way today, maybe like the last group, right? Feeling some kind of way today, then feeling some kind of way the next day, and not saying that's stable either, because you can be unstable, exactly right? But then they said, okay, well, and then you might have had that check and balances. Well, if we amend the Constitution, we're going to need this many states to agree. So that way it's not, we're going to just work off the rim, that we've got to really have robust conversation about it, great debate about it. But now I think, to your point, we live in a society in which you don't have debate. It is a do as we say, we'll tell you about it later type situation. And so then is that real freedom, or is that direct control type narrative that we live in.
That is classic type A legibus freedom belief. It is the belief at the end of the day that I can do what I want to. I'll crush your Constitution. Your Constitution don't apply to me because it doesn't suit my needs. Now, let's look back again at the American Constitution, and I want to make a bold statement about that Constitution.
Okay.
Do you know God was in the planning of that Constitution? Even though you had men sitting at the table, they didn't know that there was another person there.
Talk about it.
And because of that other person who was there, we got included. Now, you've heard from many African American scholars who said we were not included in the Constitution.
They were.
Yes, we were. They had to include us, even though they included us at 3/5 of a man. We were there, okay? And I believe God did that so we wouldn't be left out. And look at where we are now as a people as a result of that. Now, our Constitution is currently under attack. The Constitution is designed so it can move and shift, okay? But now it is under attack by people who really want to get rid of it and just do what they want to do. What do we need to do as a people? We need to completely embrace that Constitution. There needs to be large rallies of individuals who are singing the songs of America, who are raising their hand in support of the flag. We need to support that Constitution, a staunch, staunch movement to support the American Constitution. And when we do that, I think there will be tremendous pushback on those who really just want to do what they want to. And then these other groups of freedom believers could possibly find their footing and to really gravitate to something that is more solid than just flying with the wind. And then they will discover that if we can produce a responsible environment, then I understand how my behavior affects you. You understand how your behavior affects me.
Absolutely. A lot of people will say, hey, I wasn't around during the framing of the Constitution. I wasn't around during this 400 plus years of slavery, the 100 years of Jim Crow. And so you're talking about ancestorhood. So why should I even care about the inequities that exist in our community? Why should I really care about the way we're now looking at the Constitution and changing anything? Because you know what? I'm one of those people that say my life is perfect, so why get involved in it, right? One of the piece you talked about, right? So how then do you have that conversation with people to say, yeah, while it may not affect you today, it could very well affect you years. And I think to that point, that's why there's a lot of urgency to change some things, because I think there are those who see, who had saw at one time, a power shift to people who they never thought would be empowered, who would never thought they would be emboldened to have direct leadership roles. And so I think that is why there's this grazed attack of talking about woke communities, attacking that type of style, or trying to revoke the ideal of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You eloquently laid out to your word too, the different types of diversity that existed in the creation of the framers' documentation.
You know, I did some research a couple of weeks ago about the religious beliefs of the framers of the Constitution.
Okay.
I discovered something pretty interesting.
All right.
There were people in that discussion who just about all of them believed in God, and I'm talking about in Christianity now. But there were separate beliefs. You had something called deism that was at work during the framers, among the framers of the Constitution. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, and some other individuals who influenced that process believed in deism. Deism is the belief that there is a God, but you don't believe that God has anything to do with day-to-day operations of man.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Now
I'm learning something.
I could see you believing, being a deist and thinking you can do anything you want to do because there was no fear that God would intervene. Well, let me mind you, God does intervene in the affairs of man.
Sure.
And he is very much involved in what's going on in America right now. But I believe what the message that God is sending us, and is in his word, is that if you believe in righteousness, you have to stand up now. You don't lay down. You don't lay down now. You stand up. And that's all it is. You stand up for righteousness. That is fighters' belief.
Yeah.
Okay, and if that tidal wave starts, well, if that trickle starts, I think it'll turn into a tidal wave that will push back on some of the things that we see happening now. Why should we do it? Because your comfort zone today could be gone tomorrow.
Lord have mercy.
Yes, indeed, with the stroke of a pen,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
with somebody to come along and just say your job's not important anymore, and then your wealth, your whole status is gone. So nobody's comfortable in this environment. Nobody is completely stable in this environment. So we had to bring something in that's stabilizing.
Yeah, wow. So as you're talking, I thought about a real life example of that as well. When we'll go back to what people don't want to hear about oftentimes, but it is slavery, right? And so you had this idea that, you know what, we're tired of living in these conditions, including Jim Crow. We're tired of living it. We talk about the civil rights movement. And so you got people who were tired of being oppressed, tired of being in the same situation day in and day out, and said, I've got to do something different. And so then the question is there a sense that people in America are tired yet of what we are facing to say, I've got to change, I've got to start doing this? Or is there still some more months or years of it's going to hit my door and then I'm ready to wake up type situation? Is there hope for America?
It is very
Okay.
but yes, there's hope for America. But I'll tell you what, people who are tired now are going to have to realize that nothing's going to change just because you're tired.
Come on, sir.
The world continues to change, and there's a lot of confusion now. If you're tired and you're watching all of this confusion, you could become delusional and completely lose your way, which is what certain individuals would rather. That way you can't be awakened. Now, let's deal with this new word that's floating around out there called woke.
Yeah.
Woke means aware. Why would somebody want you not to be aware?
Want you to be asleep, right?
Yes, want you to be asleep.
Yeah.
During a time like this, the only person who wants you to be asleep now is people who want to take advantage of you.
Deceptive people, absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
You cannot be asleep during this time. Awareness is what started movements. And let me tell you something else, too. America has a group of its citizens who have always been warriors, who have always been overcomers. They've always dealt with suffering. They have dealt with advancements. And now we're watching the worst case of moving the goalpost that I've ever seen in America. We must realize that and decide among ourselves. I'm talking African Americans now. We are what I call the heart of America now, because we are the group that still would benefit the most from embracing the Constitution. That's all we have to do. We don't have to go and wage war against anybody's physical being. We don't need to choose a group of people to fight. We need to deal with our own personal thinking about freedom and rise up with it and stand tall like we do when we're in distress.
Yeah, that's good. But again, you go back to those 6 type of people you're talking about, and then again, I look at the challenge of you're going to have some young people to be like, you know, I'm free. I'm able to work my job. I'm able to take care of my family. Yeah, it might be hard sometimes, but who life isn't hard. And so why am I going to get out there and potentially mess up what I have right now when I'm living my best life?
You know, brother, it's ironic you said that, because I had a conversation less than a week ago with 2 young people.
Okay.
These guys there were 2, I think they were between 17 and 18-year-old African-American males.
Okay.
I wish you had heard those guys talk. We talked about the here and now, the past, and where we're going. The things they dropped on me, I didn't know young people even thought like that. These guys were very in tune to what's happening. They were very concerned about what kind of leadership that needs to rise, and they made it clear, look, we don't need to put another leader out there to get assassinated. I was like, wow, you mean these guys think like that? And they were like, yeah, there's a place for us in society. And you know what else I found out? They were not as afraid as some people are. But going back to that comfort zone, let me mind you, look around the nation right now at people who had comfort zones. They had these masterful positions, very good income, very stable careers, only to discover that it was useless to different individuals.
Sure.
At the stroke of a pen, people said you were not needed anymore. Now, where are you going? These people are going to wind up in unemployment lines. So nothing, I think, no one can boast of a true comfort zone now. If they think that America is going down the drain, many people feel like they're going down the drain with it. And so it's just time to dig in. It's time to reframe our thoughts about what's taking place now and realize that there is still power in unity.
Sure.
There is still power in great focus and forecasting. And that's what we have got to do. Nothing is going to happen overnight. It took a long-term plan to come where we are now.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long-term plan to get out of it. But for the here and now, we need to understand that freedom is a moving target. Freedom doesn't come to a place and rest. You have to keep working on this thing we call freedom.
Because freedom is always under attack.
Always under attack.
That's the reality,
Always
because you have this thing called people being envious, people being jealous, and so they say, well, why do they get to have that and I don't, type situation, or all these type of things. And so it's always under attack. And if you're not constantly keeping abreast of it and not drifting into that place of comfort that, like you said, can easily be taken away, you'll find ourselves where, and again, prime example of things being taken away. You talk about the gutting of the Civil Rights Bill, Section 5, where you had the pre-clearance of redistricting lines in some of the states that dealt with racism the most. And so you had a Supreme Court say, you know what, we no longer need that because we live in a society where people are going to do right. They're going to do the right thing, as Spike Lee would say. And yet you've had case after case go into court in these very southern states that still don't know how to draw lines. In fact, here in Nash County, they was talking about, do you include prison population or don't you? So we're still talking about these issues in these southern states that once had some level of protection through the Supreme Court. Now, I don't know what the Supreme Court they would give to line drawing, so that's a different story for a different day. But you did have that protection before. I think about other things that are gone now. When you talk about the affirmative action type situation, whereas that's no longer like that. And people say, well, I don't want to be in a position because of my skin color. I want to get there by character. But I do think there are some sections of America who could care less about character and more about familiarity. Do you look like me? Do you sound like me? Do you come from the same zip code as me? Do you have the same last name or family lineage? And so therefore it is about protecting family than growing a community or society.
Brother Bronson, I am starting a series of talks I call 7 Pits of American Bondage.
Okay.
These 7 pits can apply to African Americans. It can apply to white people or any other national group in this country, because America is built like it is. There's always pits of bondage you can fall into without knowing. The first 2 pits of bondage I'm going to deal with is the pit of ignorance and the pit of fear. Do you know there's no excuse to be ignorant now?
Hello.
Information is lying around you everywhere.
That's right.
This thing that we talk on and text on, and so we'll tell you anything in the world you need to know.
Just ask
so
for it.
there must be a move to educate ourselves in more areas than just what I do at work or what I do on Sunday.
Yeah.
There has to be a thirst for knowledge, and we have to go and get the correct knowledge. In this first session, I'm going to describe 2 types of knowledge that people need to realize. There's one called intuitive knowledge, and then the other is empirical knowledge.
Okay.
Intuitive knowledge is like things that you learn from experience. This is the kind of stuff that's passed on from generation to generation. Empirical knowledge is what we have here, something that is written. It's been tried and true in some instances, but it's something you can go to and pick up and educate yourself overnight. You don't have to wait 20 years now to learn how to change oil in your car.
Yeah.
You can just go get you some empirical knowledge and go to it.
YouTube it.
YouTube it.
That's right.
So we have to increase knowledge, but then there's fear. Fear oftentimes keeps us from pursuing knowledge.
Sure.
Because we are afraid of what we don't know. When we find out, we are afraid to try it. So when we look once again at the whole scope of America, we have to understand that the evil is at work in America, always has been and always will be. And so we have to always have a combative attitude when it comes to misinformation, when it comes to people who are just blatantly taking advantage of you, and stand up for what is right. And I go back again, if you read the Constitution of America, it is loaded with virtue, it's loaded with value, it's loaded with patriotism, it's loaded with the things that I can employ to be responsible to you, and you can employ to be responsible to me. But we get away from it because of those who believe freedom is the right to do anything I want to do. I don't need your Constitution, not tear it up.
Wow. So that upcoming event you were talking about is going to happen on April the 5th from 10 to 12. Is that right?
Yes.
At Brazos Memorial Library, the Warner Room?
In the Warner Room.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So again, that's on April the 5th, which is right around the corner because time flies. You know?
It's open to the public from 10 to 12. We'll be doing the book overview. I have a copy of my book. I don't know if you can see it here, but this is the copy of the book, Which Way is Freedom Now? I'm going to do a book overview and tell people about this book because much of what we're talking about now is in this book. The first part of this book is my own personal autobiography. And I just put it there for people to see exactly who I am. Okay. I didn't come from an ivy tower.
Okay.
I came from the rural parts of the county. I grew up in a day and time in a house where there was no telephone, no running water, and none of that. But we were happy. And I have to, and you know, when some people hear that, you have people who believe, well, you know what? There was nothing wrong with your condition because you was happy.
Yeah.
Now, I was happy because I was ignorant.
Oh,
okay?
my.
Okay. I didn't know.
Let's bring it a little closer.
I didn't know what the world looked like.
Okay.
Outside, but the happiness was a testament to the power of my parents to protect me. That's what that was. And so we made it through that. And then I was there, came through the civil rights movement, saw the change that took place. And I'll guarantee you right now, the African Americans who were from my community have seen monumental change in this country. But you have a lot of people who say, well, no, nothing has changed. Oh, yes, it has.
Oh, sure.
It's just that change has to continue changing, has to keep going. And that's what this book is about. The second half of that book discusses these types of freedom.
Okay.
And it goes into different types of movements in the country right now, such as Black Lives Matter. And I've applied a tool Dr. King presented years ago when it comes to a responsible movement. And I've applied those tools. You can apply those tools to any type of movement that's going on now to see if it's just and fair or just a group of rabble-rousers.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
And I think you want to have a plan for change that benefits everybody. Now, if you don't have that, then you're probably rooted in legibus thinking. You are probably thinking that, you know what, I can get away with this, that, and the other. And if I can just do something to improve my own status without doing anything for anybody else, I'm okay with that. Well, you know, we're going to have to go back and start looking at what we call movement and looking at what we call true American freedom.
Yeah. You know, that's good because these last couple of weeks I've been dealing with, you know, people not getting caught up in movements and really analyzing the moment, because too often we get so emotionally engaged in these movements that we don't understand the moment. What is my purpose? Why am I here? What is the potential outcome of this? But, you know, they say, hey, it's going to be nationalist this, there's going to be the Green Party this, there's going to be the Democratic Party, there's going to be the Republican this, and I'm in the movement. And yet you're really sitting there lost and you know, with a deer in the headlights type situation. So, you know, for me, I hope it's a time where people can just take a deep breath, look at the moment, look at the condition you find yourself in, and figure out, how do we engage with like-minded individuals who want to make a difference right where I am? How do we engage with like-minded individuals who want to make a difference in our state, and then gravitate to our national attention as well? And so that's what's been wrestling with me. So it's interesting you use the word movement there, and gave me an opportunity to share that. But I do want to say good morning to those who have tuned in thus far. That includes Alice Bailey, Allison Williams, James Bullock, Melinda Ingram, Candy Staten, Andre Smiley, Venice Harris, Stanley Richardson, Deborah Manning, Jacqueline Leonard Randolph, Maxine Simmons, Yvonne Hendricks, Gwendolyn Johnson, Donovan Williams, Dedrick Silver, John Jordan, also Josephine Copeland. Good morning to all of you all, and so many others who are watching via television, who might be listening via the radio. We thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank y'all for sharing the Facebook Live video as well. This morning we're talking to Linwood Williams, who has an exciting book that's out right now. You got an event and a couple of series going up. I guess, will they all take place at the Brazos Memorial Library?
To begin with, yes.
Okay. And again, the first session is going to be on April the 5th from 10 a.m. until noon. It's going to be a book preview. It's at the Brazos Memorial Library, where you're going to be talking about freedom, talking about a number, just being empowered, sharing information. That's going to be good. And it tells those first two topics again about empirical data and all that kind of good.
The first two topics we're going to deal with is the pit of ignorance and the pit of fear. These are two of 7 pits of American bondage. We must find ways to climb out of these pits. If we come out of these pits, we will start seeing a much brighter future. You said something a moment ago that also needs to take place. We need to have more think tanks, more people who really sit and process some of the craziness that we're seeing to see if we understand what it means, where it's going, and then develop plans.
That's right.
Rather than just be reactive. We can't just be reactive, because you easily step on a mine out now in the world now if you're not careful. That's why we need to think through it. Project 2025 was thought through over years. It was supported by think tanks, people who really processed information. That's the route we have to take. Instead of just being reactionary, we've got to really start processing, and then we got to put our survival caps on. If you're coming at my job and I'm not going to have income, exactly what am I going to do then? You better start thinking about it now. Not that you will be okay with it, but if it comes, you got to be ready. So that's the type of mindset we need to have now.
It's again interesting conversation, involves more interesting thoughts. And as you was talking, what came to me, you talk about minds, stepping on minds, and I was blogging, and I think about this media sensation and this governmental sensation with key phrases. They'll talk about one of those minds, DEI. You got one of these minds is border. One of these, so we think about all these minds that people just blow up and essentialize all the time. And I go back to when you talk about immigration and border security and things of that nature. One of the craziest importations or emergence of folks was the Atlantic slave trade, right? And so you had all of these folks coming over to the soil by people who consider themselves free for economic impact or whatever you want to call it. And yet there was no concern about it. It was concern about, how do I make my local communities better? And so here's what I'm gonna do. I need people to attend these fields. They were talking about the local needs, right? And we have been so sensationalized by these things that really, while down the road, they do have some impact to us, right? But at the end of the day, how are we going to get fresh fruits and vegetables to our neighbors across the street? How are we going to be sure that people can help have gainful employment to be able to pay their bills right here in our community, right? How are we going to deal with this homelessness situation in our communities? There's so many things that's right here at our door, but we want to go over the sea, over in space, everywhere else, and yet see the need every single day that exists. So this sensationalism, this sensational government that we have is quite shocking. And ultimately, I hope we get it fixed. But again, to that point, it's going to take critical thinking. These things what you're talking about, to really galvanize people to say, you know what? I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now that I see, right? And you really start singing that Amazing Grace, because there is hope, right? Yeah. That's good stuff.
And Brother Bronson, I want to also point out that the whole slave trade was orchestrated by legibrous freedom believers. They believed in that kind of freedom. It's really the freedom to do anything we want to. I mean, what kind of mindset does it take to go across the world, load of people, fellow human beings on a ship, and bring them back over here to put them to work, strip them of everything that they know? And I want to add something else too, and talking about people who have struggled in this country. This is going to be a very bold statement. There is a group of white people in this country who have been treated just as rotten as African Americans have been treated.
Oh, sure.
Now, I think they may be taken advantage of now by people who believe freedom is really the right to do anything we want to do. So all I need from you is for you to support me. You take me where I want to go. I make you a lot of promises, but when I get there, I'm going to do what I want to do because that's how I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, you're going to be left out in the cold again. And I would say, during the days of integration, only people who went through this can see it. During the days of integration, when we first went to integrated schools, we discovered that there were white people just like us. Okay, and we got along quite well. But somewhere along the way, we parted courses. Okay, with this whole notion of civil rights and so forth, we parted ways. But my heart goes out to anybody who really, really wants fighters' freedom. I think that's what we have to go back to. Let's go after that, and everybody would be better off for it.
And we talked about this before in the air, and that is the idea of Willie Lynch. That the ideal of separation is real, and it has a psychological impact that lasts for quite some time before you can deprogram people. And so what happened with integration in the schools, to your point, people start seeing there are people just like me. Now you became friends, you became married couples or whatever it is. And so then those things happen and say, wait a minute, we're getting too close to unity. We're getting too close to this thing that we're really talking about in America. We've got to figure out ways to break it all up, right? And so then you start talking about these things that's going to separate us. We're going to start talking about the uneducated and the educated. We're going to go back to living in this zip code versus that zip code, or this party over this party, or this religion over this religion, and start figuring out all these type of ways that separates those who are champions of this and those who are not type situation. And it's not that people are not champions of things, but that's just not their priority for that moment, because at the end of the day, they've got this big tumor in their neck, for lack of a better word. I've got to take care of this. You want me to take care of this splinter in my foot when I've got this tumor type situation, right? And so they are able to prioritize what is important to them, just like you're able to prioritize what's important to you. But then we'll start taking that as talking points and fighting points versus saying, okay, well, we agree we both got these same things. How can we do them simultaneously? How can we be acres and synchrons with this process, right? But that's not what we do. What we figure out is how we can fight and separate from each other.
And look, all of that distortion is being orchestrated by one of the 6 groups I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that is the type A legibus freedom believers. They are the ones who orchestrate the chaos. They are the ones who will challenge any type of unity among everybody else. Okay? No, we're not going to let you have this unity. There is a speech Dr. King made at the end of the March to Selma. I wish everybody would go back and just listen to it again, because he described this. He described this in eloquent terms, how you have a group that orchestrates chaos for their own benefit. Yeah. And it's normally, it's a very powerful group too. And they keep chaos going just to keep unity from emerging. Yeah. Now, if we go back and realize that when we saw unity in the schools I went to in integration, sure, there was conflict. But overall, it was the first time I actually recognized poor people among every race. And recognize the struggles and the grievances of poor people were the same, but these people just happen to be different colors. And the unity that we saw there was a comforting solution for us. And so realizing that was power, but this group of type A legibus freedom believers do not want you to see that power because they are threatened by it. But we must find a way to galvanize that power again.
And that is the Stanford prisoner experiment where absolute power corrupts absolutely, right?
Absolutely.
And so too often it is those people who are wealthy, who want to protect their level of wealth, protect their sense of power. And so, therefore, by any means necessary, they would do whatever they have to do, forsaking your health, forsaking your freedom, forsaking your access to things. When you look at the dismantling of not public education, but Department of Education, what impact will that have for the various things they deal with? One thing they deal with is keeping track of statistical data when it deals with are people in the education arena treated fairly, right? And so when you want to dismantle that, that's we're gonna place it over here, we can place it over here, and they can be understaffed, so they ain't gonna get done. You can fall for the okie doke if you want to. So they was able to have the empirical data to be able to say, listen, we've got to do better here because we see where the deficiency is, and so we're able to then cook up some grants or whatever you want to do to say, hey, we've got to fight this issue so that it don't become systemic, right? But you've got folk who would much rather have people in chaos, to your point, have people unknowing, because it's easier to control those people when they're caught up in the moment. I mean, caught up in the movement, not having any rational frame of thinking whatsoever. So I can see how beneficial and powerful these sessions that you're going to have are going to be life-changing for those who attend. I wish that all would. I wish you say, listen, we got to have this at the event center because so many people are here, right?
Absolutely.
Because this is the kind of conversation that I would hope even this television station and show brings about with people, but then to have it in real time with what you're investing your time and energy in doing, I think it's commendable. Again, it's going to be at Brazos Memorial Library. And Brazos Memorial Library is in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I saw someone ask that question today. It's in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. It's going to be in the Warner Room. So as soon as you walk into Brazos Memorial Library, you turn to that quick left, and you're right there at the Warner Room, where this conversation will begin on April the 5th from 10 a.m. until noon. 2 hours of power, right?
2 hours of power.
I love it. And critical thinking there in Rocky Mount. We'll continue to remind you. In fact, just you having this conversation, I've got to get you to come back on again so we can have more robust conversation about these things that we want people to think about, right? Thinking about it, because I think that changes your trajectory of what you've been conditioned to think about. When you think about Paslow's classical conditioning, because you hear this sound, you automatically say, oh, food is coming. So you start salivating even before you see the food, right? There's hope and aspiration. So people have a way of conditioning you to a whole lot of things. And how do you deprogram yourself from that? And too often you can be so far in that you don't see that you're there. I also want to say good morning to Evelyn Johnson, who's on the school board, Edgecombe County School Board.
Oh, that's my friend.
Good morning to Frida as well. Thank you all for tuning in to WNCR-TV. Now, then there's a couple of questions here. Let's see. If a job is only hiring you because of your race, I wouldn't want that job. I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. Defend the Constitution, don't destroy it. And then, well, the man just said things that affect you today can change tomorrow. So why we think on broader and future impacts? I think that even oftentimes, if you are even hired by your character, right, of your ability to do something, you can be hired under that premise and still not really be wanted there, but you're a necessitary tool. So to think that color is the only reason why you're wanted or not, you can have all the skills, the traits, and abilities, and they're gonna hire you just because you fit the mold. Not I want you, and as soon as you become dispensable, as soon as I can find somebody that can almost do half of what you do or partial, I'm gonna get rid of you because I never wanted you there to begin with. So it is about changing the thinking of people. And not this other thing that we think these other things. That's just not what it is.
Well, we have to be honest in understanding the grievances of others. Okay, there is a buzzword in white society now, something we have heard, we may not have paid much attention to it, and it's called reverse discrimination.
Sure.
That is a real grievance among a segment of white society, is that because of affirmative action, we got denied, even though we may have been better qualified, but we got denied for the sake of bringing in somebody from an opposite race or gender. You have to understand that and empathize with that position. If you were in that situation, you would probably have a grievance with it also. That has gone on for many years now. America needed affirmative action. When you realize that there was a segment of society who could not get a job because of their race, they got discriminated against.
Couldn't go places because of their race.
Places because of your race. So that is a real grievance that is out there. But once again, responsible freedom will address that because it recognizes your grievance and is willing to help resolve it to at a place where there's common ground, as opposed to just saying that's your problem, you stick with it, you deal with it. Because when you do that, you have something that festers, and eventually it becomes a scab that you have to pull the cover off. So, and that's kind of what's happening with that.
You know, and I got stuck for a moment there when you said reverse discrimination.
Yes.
Right. And I hear it all the time, right? Oh, it's reverse discrimination.
Oh, yeah.
No, you can't support that, right? I'm like, well, first of all, if it is reverse discrimination, you have to then agree that it was original discrimination.
Original discrimination.
Okay. So then let's own that first.
That's right.
Because in order to get to back up, we had to once been somewhere.
And look at what it caused.
Yeah.
I mean, it caused, my father could not get a public job to support his family. I saw that because of the color of his skin. So what are you going to do about this?
Yeah.
And that's the dilemma in society that we have to keep trying to improve on.
Absolutely.
Have to keep
Absolutely,
trying
we
to
do.
improve on it.
I want to say also good morning to Gwendolyn Swain. Thank you for tuning in as well to Wncr-Tv now as well. Well, great. I could talk to you all day long, brother. I tell you, because again, thinking critically is one thing that I think we all should do. I think there is an effort not to do it. That's probably why they don't like the idea of critical race theory, not as being taught in school, but that critical component where you can see beyond what you see right now is what they don't want you to be able to connect the dots.
That's right.
They don't want you to be able to do these type of things, and then the question is why. Yes. And ultimately, the why is going to end up in control, power, and position.
That's right.
And so, as long as I can dumb you down, as long as I can make you think I'm working in your best interest, then you're going to support me. You're not going to ask any questions. Anything I do is all right with you because
blind follow
all day long. And so, but again, if people truly love and respect you, they're going to teach you to challenge the process.
That's right.
They're going to teach you to encourage others to act. These are the things that are important to great leaders. Because great leaders should mind being checked.
That's right.
Because if you are leading and you know what you know that you know.
That's right.
When they come back with this saying, well, what about this, Mr. Leader, Ms. Leader? Here's why. Okay. That you know, but then I thought about, well, here's why. Yes. You know, or a leader will also say, you know what, I never thought about that. You're absolutely right. That's being able to reinforce the type of learning systems and styles in which they're imposing upon people. That is what great leadership will do.
Yes.
Not have all the answers, be willing to submit and say, you know, but this is why you're here.
That's
because
right.
we're going to help each other along the way. Is so important as well. So again, can't mention it more and more enough. April the 5th, 10 until noon. Browse Memorial Library right here in Rocky Mount. Which way is freedom?
Which way is freedom?
Which way is freedom? And of course, we learned today there's certainly hope for America. You know, the fact we have breath in our body, we have able minds. There's hope for America, and that people who want to change from what they see right now. I think that's important. Anything else you want to share?
Nothing more than please put it on your calendar at that date, April the 5th from 10 to 12. Be there and let's discuss the idea of the book, and let's see if there are things we can do to work together. America is worth saving. God is in the Constitution. The Constitution of America gave us a platform for freedom. God gave us a platform for freedom. If you put those two freedoms together, nothing can stop you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right indeed. Well, thank you so much. It's Wncr-Tv Now as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. 10 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour this morning on Friday, February the 14th. Thank you all for tuning in as always. Be back with you on Monday to do it all over again. Don't forget, today is Friday at Pop's Diner, downtown Rocky Mount, 132 South Church Street. I mean, it's Fish Friday, so we've got some catfish over there today. I think we've got some flounder. I don't know what else, but we got fish today. I know we got catfish for sure, and all of your different sizes. Again, we open from 11 until 6 p.m. today, downtown Rocky Mount. Closed on Saturdays, but on Sundays, we have Soul Food Sundays, so be sure to check us out for baby back ribs, turkey wings, and all your sides and all that kind of chicken and all that kind of stuff too on Sunday as well. So don't forget, Pop's Diner open Sunday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. And finally, where will I be the rest of the day? At Gotta Have It Auto Sales, 1211 North Wesleyan Boulevard, where we can get you riding today as well. Enjoy the conversation with Mr. Linwood Williams. I do hope you will go out on April the 5th from 10 until noon, as they will share information with you, give you a new way of thinking. And I guess it'll be also a conversation that will allow people to engage with one another too. So we're looking to see that. And looks like April the 5th is a Saturday. So hopefully that is a no excuse day for you to go. Go ahead and plan now. You say, hey, listen. Go ahead, my man. Go ahead. What you say now?
I said refreshments will be served.
We got refreshments there as well. And so that's on a Saturday. And so you can make plans now. So that way when people say, I have something on the April 5th, nope, I'm going over here. I want to have some conversation with Brother Linwood and the rest of my members in the community. Hopefully we can make it a major and impactful difference. So we'll see you Monday, or I'll see you at Pops throughout the week. To do it all over again on Monday, though, from 7:30ish until whatever time we get off with WNCR-TV. Now, WAJA 102.5. Make it a great and fantastic Friday.